Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Philosophy Hour of Literary Tales. I'm your host, Paul Krause, and in this episode, we continue the influence of St. Augustine, and in this episode, concentrate on his influence in the Renaissance, principally by focusing on his theology of love. If Augustine was the great influence over the development of the ecclesiology and the sacramentalism of the Western Church, the other life of Augustine flourished in the Renaissance. Encounters with Islam and the discovery or the rediscovery of ancient Greek writings, principally in Neoplatonic philosophy and mysticism, led to the rise of the Renaissance humanists. Some of the famous names include Pico Mirandola, Nicholas of Cusa, and Marsilio Ficino. The humanists embarked on a grand synthetic project in theology, the attempt to make Greek philosophy compatible with Christianity. They turned principally to Augustine, whom they were all extensively well read on, for their basis and their synthetic project. The idea that Augustine baptized Plato is a bit misleading. The patristic fathers, especially in the West, may have had a debt to Greek philosophy, but the full synthesis of Greek philosophy with Catholic theology is actually a Renaissance project. But since the Renaissance humanists, the clerics, the theologians, and the philosophers all rested on Augustine as their foundation to bring about this synthesis, there is a certain truth when people do say that Augustine baptized Plato. Augustine's theology, or his perhaps psychology and philosophy of love, is often forgotten in the larger theological debates of his relationship to the Western Church, its ecclesiology, and the soteriology of grace and salvation, which we will cover in another episode. However, Augustine's theology of love is extremely important for the development of the philosophy of love, ecumenism, and the psychology following the 15th century and post-Renaissance. Augustine's view of love is roughly as follows. Human nature is love and wisdom, and the will is moved by its desire for happiness. This impulse of love, which is intrinsic to human nature, exists inside human interiority, the heart, mind, and soul, and is the sole cause of all human activity. The aim of love is happiness through knowledge. According to Augustine, all things are to be loved through God. The word is conceived in love of either the creature or the creator. That is of changeable nature or unchangeable truth, which means either in covetousness or in charity. Not that a creature is not to be loved, but if that love is related to the Creator, it will no longer be covetousness, but charity. I love myself not merely for my sake, but for God's sake. I love others not merely for their sake, but also for God. I love the world and the creation not merely for its sake, but also for God's sake. In another way of understanding, all things that exist do so in a relationship to God. In Augustine's vision, all things subsist in God because God is love, and love is what binds everything together. And when you understand the wisdom, the knowledge, that all things subsist in love, who is God, that is what allows you to love God through anything and everything. This is the proper understanding of love according to Augustine. Thus, he is able to say, for instance, that love aims at beauty, and beauty is in all things. Late have I loved you, beauty so ancient and so new. And how can we love anything but the beautiful? For Augustine, the ultimate primary reality of love is the beautiful, and to find beauty and the beautiful in all things is the task of the soul. The humanists picked up on this theme in order to carve out sovereignty and autonomy from state and even ecclesiastical coercion. They argued that the compulsion that moves humans to truth and love, who is again God, is an interior desire that Augustine called love. Love compels humans to seek wisdom, who is Christ, and this knowledge of wisdom, Christ, leads to a union of corporeal reality with transcendent truth, the subsistence of creation with God. The humanists went further by articulating the sanctification of the conscience, also drawn from Augustine, wherein the conscience and the conscience alone is moved to these actions it undertakes. From this move, the humanists then asserted that love of wisdom, philosophy, was a quest to find God, and that even the Islamic religion's impulse to worship is a quest to find the true God, thus paving the way for compatibilism. All religion and all philosophy, once fully enlightened in the person of Christ, will find its way to the one true God, and that all religions and all philosophies, even if they do not know the person of Christ, are nevertheless on the path to truth. Following Augustine, the humanists also stressed love is the desire for beauty, and gave to the rest of the Western world this idea, born from Plato and magnified in Augustine, that beauty and love are synonymous. As Ficino wrote, love is the desire to enjoy beauty. Beauty is the radiance that attracts the soul. Beauty, because beauty is a combination of love and truth, is therefore tied to God, and our desire for beauty is ultimately a desire for transcendence. Here it is important to remember, contrary critics of the humanists, that their mission wasn't to subordinate Christianity to philosophy, but to show how worldly sciences and philosophies and other religions can lead to Christianity and point to the truths of Christianity. Moreover, the Protestant reformers inherited and expanded the humanist sanctification of the interior conscience during their debates with the Catholic Church in the Reformation. After all, part of the humanist agenda, as mentioned, was to carve out that sovereignty of the mind, the soul, from the state and church coercion. And in our next episode, covering Augustine's influence over Western theology and philosophy, we will turn to his role in the Reformation.